If you're the kind of person who explains and explains until you forget what you were even trying to say, I need you to know something. That was me. I used to think clarity could save me if I chose the perfect words, the perfect tone, the perfect timing, then surely he would understand. But I wasn't in a conversation. I was in a courtroom, and the rules were simple. I was always on trial. The day I learned the calm boundary started like any other day. Morning light in the kitchen, my coffee cooling too fast, my phone buzzing before I was fully awake. He criticized something small, how I loaded the dishwasher, how I folded the towels, how I spoke. The details changed, the feeling didn't. I felt my body tighten, preparing for the usual: explain, fix, apologize, try harder. And then, in the middle of my own panic, a thought arrived like a hand on my shoulder. What if you stop performing? I didn't know how to be brave. I only knew how to be quiet. But that morning, I wrote one sentence on a sticky note and stuck it inside my cabinet where he wouldn't see it. I'm not available for disrespect. At work, I remembered who I was. I spoke in meetings without asking permission. I made decisions. I solved problems. People didn't call me too sensitive when I had an opinion. No one demanded a paragraph justifying my right to exist. Then I went home, and the moment I opened the door, my nervous system shifted. He was already irritated about traffic, about colleagues, about the way the world didn't appreciate him. I listened, nodding the way I'd been trained to. Then he turned it toward me. "You're so careless," he said, looking at the grocery bags. "You never do anything right." My heart jumped. I felt the old reflex: explain the day, explain the choices, explain my intentions until I was empty. I started. I only... He cut me off with a sigh, like my voice was a nuisance. And for the first time, I noticed the exact moment I usually disappeared. I stopped mid-sentence. I remembered the sticky note. I took one slow breath, and I said, quietly, evenly, "I'm not available for disrespect." It didn't sound powerful. It sounded calm. But calm was the thing he couldn't twist into hysteria. His face changed, like he didn't recognize the rules anymore. "What did you say?" he asked. I repeated it. Same tone, same words. "I'm not available for disrespect." Here's what surprised me. He didn't suddenly become kind. He became louder. He tried the old tools. "You're so dramatic." "There you go again. You always think you're right." And my body tried to sprint back into the familiar role, fix it, soften it, make him comfortable. But the calm boundary wasn't about winning. It was about not abandoning myself. So I didn't argue the words dramatic. I didn't debate whether I was right. I didn't list evidence. I just returned to the same line, like a lighthouse returning to its light. "I'm not available for disrespect." He laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound meant to make me doubt. I felt my cheeks heat up. I wanted to explain. And that's when I realized the real addiction wasn't explaining. It was hoping. Hoping that if I performed perfectly, he would finally treat me like a human. That night, after he stormed into another room, I sat in the bathroom with the tap running and let my hands shake. I wasn't calm on the inside, but I had stayed calm on the outside, and that was new. I looked at my reflection and whispered, "This is what protecting myself feels like." The next day, the boundary got tested in a different way. He acted normal, almost sweet. And my mind tried to rewrite what happened. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I should just go back to being easy. That's how the cycle stays alive. It feeds on your doubt. At lunch, I met a friend and told her one honest sentence. I set a boundary last night. She didn't ask what I did wrong. She asked, "How did it feel in your body?" I swallowed. Terrifying, I admitted, but also clean. My friend nodded slowly. Clean is a good word, she said, because disrespect always leaves a mess inside you. On the walk back, I repeated my sentence in my head, not like a weapon, like a seatbelt. I'm not available for disrespect. Not today, not in this tone, not in front of my nervous system. That evening he tried again, this time with sarcasm. You're so sensitive, can't take a joke. I felt the urge to prove I could. I didn't. I just said, calmly, I'm not available for disrespect, and I walked away. That's when I realized something. The boundary isn't only what you say, it's what you stop participating in. I wish I could tell you that after the calm boundary, everything became peaceful. It didn't. But something became clearer. He didn't want a conversation. He wanted access. Access to my attention, my emotion, my apologizing. When I stopped giving him that access, he got restless. And I got space. Space inside my own head. One night he said, "You've changed. You're cold." Old me would have panicked, scrambled to prove I was warm. New me noticed the trick. If I'm calm, I'm cold. If I'm hurt, I'm dramatic. If I'm quiet, I'm passive-aggressive. The label always changes to keep me off balance, so I didn't argue cold. I said, I'm not available for disrespect. And then I did something radical. I sat down and ate my dinner slowly. I let silence exist. I let my body unclench on its own timeline, because I was learning this. A boundary is not a speech. A boundary is a practice. And practice is how you build self-respect. Later, I wrote the sentence again on a new sticky note and placed it where I could see it every morning. My peace doesn't require permission. A week later, something small happened, small but telling. He criticized me in front of someone else, a casual jab meant to embarrass me, and I felt my body do the old thing, shrink. Then I felt another thing, the memory of my own voice. I looked at him and said calmly, I'm not available for disrespect. There was a pause. The room didn't explode. The sky didn't fall. The other person changed the subject, and I realized I had been acting like one sentence could destroy me, but the sentence was building me. That night I cried, not because I regretted it, because grief is part of becoming free. Grief for how long I stayed quiet, grief for how much energy I spent trying to be acceptable. But under the grief, there was something steady. I was no longer negotiating my dignity, and if you're listening to this, I want to tell you the truest thing I learned. You don't need a perfect explanation. You need a steady line, because disrespect doesn't get a debate. It gets a boundary, and your boundary can be calm. Calm doesn't mean weak. Calm means you're done performing. Calm means you're choosing yourself. Here's what the calm boundary did over time. It gave me my minutes back. The minutes I used to waste writing long messages to defend myself. The minutes I used to waste replaying conversations, trying to find the exact moment I became wrong. The minutes I used to waste making myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. When I stopped explaining, I started listening to myself. I noticed how my body reacted when he crossed a line. I noticed how peace felt when I left the room. I noticed how my mind cleared when I didn't chase the argument. And I also noticed something important. When you set a boundary, you may feel fear. That doesn't mean the boundary is wrong. It often means your nervous system is learning a new rule. If you relate to this and you need support, you deserve trained professional help, counselors, and local services who understand controlling dynamics. Because boundaries are easier to practice when you're not carrying everything alone. My closing message is simple. If someone needs you to shrink in order to love you, that isn't love. And you don't have to perform your humanity. One calm sentence can be the beginning. I'm not available for disrespect.